In this video, let us discuss about the properties of ellipse. Now, here we have the first property. The first property says tangent and normal at any point P bisects the external and internal angles made by the focal distances of SP and S dash P. So, अगर हम यहाँ पे देखेंगे ना तो ये है एक फोकस S और ये है दूसरा फोकस S dash. And this is any general point on the ellipse. So what we have done is एक tangent हमने draw किया है और एक normal हमने draw किया है. तो what this property says is कि ये जो दोनों focal distance के बीच में angle बन रहा है ना, this is bisected by the normal and the tangent. So basically अगर हम यहाँ पे represent करेंगे, so this angle and this angle will be equal. Further, if suppose we extend this line which is the focal distance यहाँ पे और ये वाला भी अगर हम extend कर दे पीछे की तरफ, then the tangent bisects this particular angle also. So basically here also we can represent ये वाला angle and ये वाला angle are equal. So that is what this property has to say. Now इसको थोड़ा और अच्छे से समझने के लिए हमने क्या किया है, we have taken this triangle here. तो just look, ये हो गया हमारा point S, S dash P, this is the tangent and this is the normal. तो हम कैसे prove करेंगे इस property को? We can prove this by using the property of angle bisector theorem. So according to angle bisector theorem, हमारे पास क्या आ जाता है? We know this upon this distance is equals to ये upon ये. That is to say, अगर हम इसको लिख लें तो हमको मिल जाता है SG by S dash G is equals to SP by S dash P. So we can easily prove this by using the equation of the ellipse and by solving the equation of normal with the axis. तो ये हम प्रूव कर लेंगे and that is how we get this property. Now, as a result, क्या होता है इसके कारण? So we can write, as a result, we get a reflection property of an ellipse. Now, what do we mean by the reflection property of an ellipse? Let us try to understand. तो if suppose अगर हमने ये ellipse यहाँ पे draw किया है and ये हो गया हमारा ellipse का axis and say ये दो हमारे दो foci हैं, this is S and this is S dash. According to the reflection property, if a ray of light is coming from one focus and it gets reflected from the inside of the ellipse, after reflection it will pass through the second focus. And if suppose the ray of light is coming from the second focus, then after reflection it will pass through the first focus. So this is a very important and interesting property of an ellipse, and that is what we have in this first point. So I hope you have a clear understanding of property number 1. Now, all these properties that we are going to discuss in this video can be proved with the help of equations and points. So let us move on to the next property. So next property कहता है, this is the second property. So the next property says the locus of the point of intersection of feet of perpendicular from foci on any tangent to an ellipse is the auxiliary circle. So what do we have suppose? तो ये हमने एक ellipse लिया है and this is the corresponding auxiliary circle. ये हमारा auxiliary circle हो गया. If we drop a perpendicular from the foci on this tangent, ये जो point of intersection मिलता है या फिर इसको हम लोग feet of perpendicular भी कह सकते हैं, this will lie on the auxiliary circle. So इस प्रॉपर्टी को हम कैसे प्रूव करेंगे? I'll just give you a method to proceed. So let us say this is a point which is the foot of perpendicular and we take this point as h comma k. और इसी पॉइंट का हमको लोकस फाइंड आउट करना है. सो वी स्टार्ट विथ y इज इक्वल्स टू mx प्लस एंड माइनस अंडर रूट ऑफ a स्क्वायर m स्क्वायर प्लस b स्क्वायर. सो सिंस हमको कोई एक टेंजेंट ही लेना है, सो वी कैन टेक दिस इक्वेशन विद द पॉजिटिव साइन. तो ये सपोज हमने ले लिया. इस लाइन पे अगर हम फीट ऑफ परपेंडिकुलर फाइंड आउट करेंगे, सो वी गेट द कंडीशन h स्क्वायर प्लस k स्क्वायर is equals to a square, and if we replace h and k by x and y, we get x square plus y square equals to a square, which will represent the equation of auxiliary circle in this ellipse. So this is the property number 2. Let us move on to the next property. The third property says if P be any point on the ellipse with S and S dash as its foci, then length of SP plus length of S dash P is equals to 2a. Now this is also referred to as the second definition of ellipse. This is a very important property which we have discussed earlier also. तो ये क्या कह रहा है? If suppose this is an ellipse and these are the two foci and say P is any point on the ellipse. ये हो गया S, ये हो गया S dash. तो if we find out the length SP and S dash P and add them up, so this is equal to the length of the major axis. So SP plus S dash P is equals to 2a, and that is a constant, and that is equal to the length of major axis. So this is the property number 3. Now moving on to the next property, property number 4. In this property it says if the normal at any point P on the ellipse with center C meets the major and minor axis in capital G and small g respectively, and if CF be the perpendicular upon this normal, then PF into PG is B square and PF into P small g is equals to A square. तो let us say हम इसको डायग्राम से समझ लेते हैं. तो ये हमने हमारा एलिप्स ड्रॉ कर लिया. ना अभी हम क्या करेंगे? अभी हम इस एलिप्स पे एक नॉर्मल ड्रॉ करेंगे. सो बिफोर वी ड्रॉ द नॉर्मल, let us draw the major axis and the minor axis. Now if suppose at a point P here we are drawing a normal to this ellipse, तो ये हो गया हमारा normal. Now this normal is cutting the major axis at point capital G and the minor axis at the point small g, and here we have the center of an ellipse. The next step is to draw a perpendicular from point C on this normal. We name it as F. तो ये हो गया हमारा डायग्राम. Now according to this property, अगर हम PF और PG के डिस्टेंस को मल्टीप्लाई करते हैं, so PF into P capital G, this is equal to small b square, that is semi minor axis का स्क्वायर. एंड सिमिलरली अगर हम PF और P स्मॉल g को मल्टीप्लाई करते हैं, we get, so this is this important property of ellipse. Moving on to the next property. Next property says the portion of the tangent to ellipse between the point of contact and the directrix subtends a right angle at the corresponding focus. तो let us see what do we have here. तो सबसे पहले हमने एक हमारा ellipse draw कर लिया. The portion of the tangent, so also we take a tangent. So this is the major axis से, this is the minor axis, और यहाँ पे हमारे पास एक डायरेक्ट्रिक्स है. So this is the line x equals to a by e. This is the center C. Now if we draw a tangent to this ellipse in this manner, so what it says, the portion of the tangent to an ellipse between the point of contact and the डायरेक्ट्रिक्स. तो ये है हमारा एक पॉइंट ऑफ कॉन्टैक्ट, लेट अस से इसको हम P बोल देते हैं. And this is a point where it is intersecting with the directrix. Let us say we call it Q. So this portion they are talking about. This subtends a right angle at the corresponding focus. मतलब for this directrix, the corresponding focus would lie somewhere here. So if we join points P and Q to this focus, this angle will be equal to 90 degree. So it says PQ is subtending an angle of 90 degree at the corresponding focus. So this is the property number 5. Now let us look at property number 6. Now here the property is the product of perpendicular distance from the foci to any tangent to an ellipse. So again let us take an ellipse और यहाँ पे हमको क्या बोला है, तो हम सबसे पहले मेजर एंड माइनर एक्सिस ड्रॉ कर लेंगे एंड वी टेक अ tangent. So this is say the tangent and the two foci would be somewhere here and here say. तो ये क्या कह रहा है, ये कह रहा है the product of perpendicular distances from the foci to any tangent. So this is let us say any tangent. दोनों फोकाई से हम इस पे परपेंडिकुलर ड्रॉप कर लेते हैं. परपेंडिकुलर फ्रॉम S dash and here we have a perpendicular from let us say S. इस परपेंडिकुलर डिस्टेंस को हमने सपोज P1 कह दिया, P1 is the distance, and दूसरे परपेंडिकुलर डिस्टेंस को which we have drawn from S dash, this is let us say P2. So the product P1 into P2 is equal to B squared. So this is what this property says, is equal to the square of the semi-minor axis. So that is what this property has to say. Now all these properties are very important and they are asked in the exams quite frequently. So you must always try to remember these properties as they become very helpful in many cases. After this, let us move on to the next property, property number 7. So here it says that tangents at the extremities of lattice rectum of an ellipse intersects on the corresponding directrix. So if you look at an ellipse here, we draw a major axis and we draw a minor axis. तो ये हमने major और minor axis draw कर लिया. And let us say here we have the lattice rectum and this is the directrix. So maybe थोड़ा सा डायग्राम का ओरिएंटेशन प्रॉपर नहीं हुआ है, बट आई होप यू क्लियरली अंडरस्टैंड. तो अगर हम दोनों एंड्स पे टेंजेंट ड्रॉ करेंगे, so it will meet at the corresponding directrix. So this is what this diagram. So they'll meet at the corresponding directrix. So this is what this property has to say. The tangents at the extremities of a lattice rectum intersect at the corresponding directrix. So that is all that we have in this very important video where we discussed some of the properties of the ellipse.